Welcome in, everyone. We are going to recap our flow alerts from 7.8 to 7.12. For those that missed the live stream, this is probably a blessing for you because that live stream was not fun for me. It was my first live stream. I'm going to probably live stream the recap every week, though. But this will just be a screen recording of this, so we're going to go over the flow, kind of go over the trades from the week, how they ran, all that stuff. So I'm going to kind of do this a little bit quicker just to make the video as informative as possible. So let's get started. We're going to go over the trades that were called out first, and then we're going to kind of go over the movement and the flow first. So this is for 7.8. So starting out on 7.8, we had Apple puts. We had a big whale, 2,000 contracts at 630K. And again, I'll touch on all this. I just want to go through the alerts first, just so people know what's in the video. So Apple first, and those were filled at 315. So Snap 816.19 call at 0.94, 429K. You can see that flow here. Good size there, 4,500 contracts, 429K in premium. Tesla calls from 7 to 9. Big whale here, obviously. Good premium there as well, 170K between the two. We also had hood calls for 11.15, 27 call. A little longer play here. You can see them kind of getting filled a little more towards the mid, but leaning towards the ask side there as well, so 466K in total premium, 1,900 contracts. SBUX, and you can always see the date here when they came in. SBUX 726 call, 0.59, 1,000 contracts, 62K premium. A little smaller whale there, but still a whale. And we had some longer-term Apple flow, 10.18, 265 call, 239 was your spot fill, 713K in premium, 239 fill there, almost 3,000 contracts, 713K there. We had JD calls come in, 10.18, 32 call at the ask there, 2,500 contracts, 312K in total premium. Tesla calls yesterday as well, 816, 385 call, 305, good premium, good size. Today we had Rivian 719, next week expiration 19.5 calls at 50. A little between the bid and ask there, but towards the ask there, good premium here, good size. Looking at our bid side, we only had one put sell this week that looked good to me. Looking at this here, obviously it was the Uber 57.5 put sells, so this is a bullish trade. So good premium there as well. And we had a couple ETFs this week. We had SOXL, so 8272 call, 257. Almost 1,000 contracts at 255,000. TQQQ, 816.85 call, 505. Good premium, good size. We had SPY 726, 564 call, 336 here. Good size, good premium. KWeb 1115, 30 calls. Again, good size, good premium. IWM 82217 calls, 162, a little over $1 million premium. So those are the trades that we're going to recap here. And let me pop this out. I'm going to pop on over to the flow. So first up we had Intel, and I'm just going to kind of go over the flow, kind of go over the movement of the contracts and all that. So this was our whale coming in on 7.8 here. So looking at that flow, and some of the flow, just because it's further back, it's not going to populate, but I do have some good examples in here though. So here's our whale, obviously not getting the full view here, but obviously we had some IV increase here along with that spot price increase. So we'll just kind of look at that here. So these ran from 0.96 was that whale fill, and we hit 210 for a high today. So those moved a little bit more. So they had a high of 118% today, so 0.96 to 210. Obviously, kind of looking at that net premium as well. A lot of net call premium throughout the week there. So that was Intel. So SOXL was another good one. So SOXL, these came in on 7-8, and you can kind of see that the candle premium, just some little facts there. Obviously, a lot of ask side volume on that candle. Looking at that flow here, obviously you can see spot there, good IV there. Coming over back here, and looks like this whale, majority of this whale's still in. You can see that date where all that volume came in, majority of that turning into open interest. Still seeing a lot of that there as well. But they did run from $2.57 all the way up to $4 a contract, and this was on the 10th. Actually, they hit $4.30 on the 11th. So these ran a little bit more. So these ran $2.57 to $4.30, about 67% there. So another solid one, and making a big return back today here as well. So that was the flow for that one. So Apple, we had Apple puts coming on the 8th as well. This one was a little bit more of a patience play here. We had a fill at 315 and kind of choppy for the most part, and then yesterday on the sell-off they hit 330 or 353 for a high. You can see that there. And let's take a peek at the flow. So looking at that flow here, let me do that. So again, seeing that IV increase when that whale came in, spot price kind of staying the same. So good sign there, and obviously those did run 315, 353, just a tick over 10%, about 12.06%. And we can see that here again, and it's starting to get a little messy here with the flow, so kind of harder to tell if this specific whale is still in, but a little over 10%. I like 15%, but still, again, you see profits. I like adjusting up stops no matter what. At least break even after 10%. Shouldn't have something 10% and above turn red. So moving on here. And then next up, we had the 8, 16, 19 snap calls. So again, here's their entry at 0.94, 0.95, and let's take a peek at that flow. Come back down here. So here's where that flow started to come in, and you can see that IV staying at 84.12 here, 84.12. Small little drop here, but then we have a spike there in the IV again as well, jumping back up to 84.58, and then kind of moving up to 86 there. Again, looking at the spot price here, spot price staying at 0.94, 0.94, moving up to 0.96, again, can suggest buyers hitting about 0.98 here as well. And looking at the movement of this contract, so here's their entry. So they entered at 94, 95-ish. These hit a high of 128 yesterday on the 11th. So 36% return there. Could see, looks like this whale may have handed off some contracts here. They did close, so I'm kind of looking at the math here. Roughly 5,700 contracts in that candle, and then about 5,400 contracts there. Kind of just doing a visual of the candle there. You can see here's that first whale that came in, 4,500 contracts. Could have been taking some off there just because you see that volume and only a little carrying over, so more than likely this whale officially closed their position yesterday after being up. So kind of how that looks to me. And how was that net premium the last couple days? So pretty much, I mean, good call net premium coming in here. So a lot of net put premium today though. So snap, those ran again 0.94 to 128, 36%. And let's move on to Tesla from 7.9. Here's your 7.9 whale. 320 was their entry. I believe it was about 310 because we had some other flow coming after. So let's take a peek. So where that whale came in here, obviously a little lower IV here, but still getting good premium coming in here. Then we have a jump in IV there. And spot price kind of stays the same on this one for the most part. But looking at that IV, 80.46, coming up, getting some neutral side fill. Coming back, seeing us jump in the IV there. Little drop there, and then we had a bigger jump in IV here, so that spot price 305, then we jump up to 310, and then IV increases to 80.68, so again can be suggestive of buyers, and again continuing to look at it. Obviously spot price staying up, even kind of staying mid there a little bit, but IV staying up as well. And then looking at this one, so here is their entry about 310, 315, 320. We'll say 310. These hitting a high of 522 yesterday, or 550 yesterday, for 77%. So this is a really odd one to me because we're seeing. So here's all that volume from the 9th carrying over into open interest. Seeing about 1,700 come off on the 11th. Down here. So to me, is this people cutting or is this the whale cutting? It's getting a little congested here, but I would assume this whale is in still. Could have cut some profits there, but that net call premium's up a lot, almost up 4% after dropping yesterday. But yeah, so I mean, if you would have took these on Tuesday and smartly adjusted up stops, these hit a high of 550, so 310 to 550, that's 77%. So again, that's what's kind of odd to me about this too, that this whale may have let 77% of profits turn red unless they know something big is coming. So something to watch for sure. So moving on here. So next we have, this next one is actually our first loss of the week. So Hood, the 11-15-27 calls. This was their entry. Looking at that ask side and bid side volume, we'll say 4,000 just to make it easy. 4,000 at 240 here, and about roughly, again, you can see that ask 3,300, 600 bid, about 4,000. So coming down here, here's that first, the entry on the 9th. And you can see that carrying over. And then yesterday, looking like they, or on the 10th, they would have another 4,000 of volume, so losing about 2,000 there. So it looks like they probably cut some on the 10th and may have passed some off here. Getting some more flow there, and you can kind of see somebody's holding about 2,000 contracts still. So would count this as a loss though, because it looks like this whale exited or passed the contracts off. Let's take a peek at the flow anyways. So looking at the flow when it came in. So here you go, small jump in IV as the flow starts to come in. Spot price staying the same here. IV kind of staying the same. Jump in IV there. Then we get some bid side calls here, but that IV jumps up as well, even with that big bid side order here. And this is really on the bid side too, so kind of something that would typically throw me off, but then we have another jump in IV here with the whale being filled with the ask. So lots of ask side hits coming in here then, and that IV increasing up to 70.93. And I believe, yep. Then we have spot increasing there again as well with that IV increasing, so 71.11, and then small drop again. Again, that spot is being filled with the ask still. IV down a little bit here, but then we jump back up to 71.11. Spot price staying up, so at first the flow was a little iffy on this one, but good risk reward on this one, because also I want to come back here at the time. That net call premium was pretty much spiked, so kind of combining the two data points, liked it. Obviously the whale cut onto the next trade, so that would be our loser for the week. And our next one is SBUX, and this one is running today. So here is your whale entry. Come down here. So here you go. When the whale starts coming in, jump in the IV there, you can see that. Small decrease in the spot, but you can see that timing was a little before there, so 25.20 there. We're sitting at the ask on the spot. 25.20, 25.20, sitting at 59. Then we have a small jump, but this more than likely wasn't that whale. And the interesting part here is, let me find it, here we go. This whale was coming in above the ask with pretty decent size too, so that IV was staying the same, but we were coming in above the ask, so good sign there. Big whale, or same trader there, but good size, good premium, again, right there at the ask. So good sign there, and looking at that trade, here's that whale 59, kind of chopped for a couple days. And again, with some of this flow, like you can see this expires in 14 days. This came in on the 9th, so at the time 17 days. A little more midterm trade there. And the whale obviously is doing good today. They're hitting a high of 95. So these are running about 61% today. Good trade there as well. Moving on, and then we had the 10-18 Apple calls coming in here. 10-18 Apple calls. $24.57 spike in the IV. $24.57, $24.57. See that spot staying towards the ask. So good flow there. Sitting about, where are we at? 239 was their fill. Hit about 268 intraday there. Obviously they're in the play for a little longer term, 98 days. We hit 268 and they about 250, 253, down a little bit today if you swung, but hitting about 12%, a little over 10%, 239, 268, 12%. Again, longer term flow here, gotta kind of be patient on these things. So count that one as a win. And the next one is our put sell for the week. Put sell, and this was a fantastic one if you took calls. Here's the Uber put sells that came in. You can see the big whale coming in there. 7,700 contracts carrying over. And how we knew this was put sell. Down here. So here you go, we're coming in, sitting at that bid here, at the bid, IV, we're watching the IV. So with put sells, you're looking for, or selling contracts, if you're selling calls, selling puts, you're looking for that IV to decrease and that spot price to decrease as well. It's the opposite of the ask side stuff, so, which again, isn't 100% science and not 100% going to work a lot of the time, just data points you use. So again, looking 48.71, we drop an IV here, spot, or the bid drops a little bit more here, we hit that bid there, starting to drop more, 48.38, and then we do have a small little uptick in IV here, with us still being filled at the bid, but continuing on, we let me get some ask side stuff. Again, not a huge part of the trade, so it doesn't really concern me that much. We have another drop in IV, so 48.24 after the small rise drop there. Bid drops a little bit, and you can see that spot continuing to decrease. 48.07 as well there. Spot continuing to decrease. And I think 57 was the lowest we went, obviously 48.02, that's decreasing. Little jump there. Still being filled at the bid. Excuse me. So again, still being filled at the bid there. And then 57, 48.10. Looked like good flow to me, so looking at that. They were filled at 58. They hit a low of 18 today. They collect, so contracts had depreciated from 0.60 per contract to down to 0.18. So they collected about 70% of that premium there. Very good put sell, or if you took calls, look at that chart. This is when they came in. Nice move up there on Uber from 69 to about 73-ish. Really good put sell. Moving on now, we have TQQQ. And again, a little longer term one. Kind of flat on this one. I won't dive super deep into that. Let me pop this back in. Making a decent comeback today. 2,000 contracts here. They only hit about 522, 535 that day. Not even 10% up, just a little under 6%. And again, little longer term. Little longer term flow there. So gotta give this time to play out. For now, I would say, I mean, they're down a little bit with that sell-off on the 11th, but keeping eyes on that. So right now, I would consider this open still. And the next one was a SPY call that came in, and these came in at 336. Very clean entry here. Where are we? 9,000, about 9,000 contracts. Seeing about all that carryover. More contracts probably being taken off today, but these running from 336 up to a high today of 454, giving us a max return of 35%. Great trade on SPY there. And let's take a peek at the flow. So looking at the flow when this came in, here's your IV. Keep an eye on the spot and IV coming up, IV increasing, spot kind of staying up there, IV increasing again there, spot increasing. spot increasing there, IV increasing there as well, IV increasing also, spot staying there. Then we have more coming in, that IV increasing, spot dropping a little bit, but that IV still increasing, IV still increasing there, spot coming up a little bit again there. Then we're into the 11% on the IV, again spot staying towards the ask, spot price increasing again, 1102. So that was some good flow there, good textbook flow there on ETF flow. And mixing that in with that market tide that day, market tide was extremely bullish, so that really helped there. So those running from 336 to 454, 35%. JD, again, a little longer term one here. Here's your flow. Contracts there, majority of that carrying over. Hitting 147 today, about 20%, 122 to 147. Looking at that flow. IV kind of staying up there. Again, clean ask side flow, something you want to watch. Clean entry there. Obviously, I was looking at that multi-leg and all that as well. And a one right now, Tesla. So here's your whale coming in yesterday. 2,100 contracts, was about 1,700 contracts. Majority of that carrying over, so something to watch there. And looking at this flow, and this is when I say this is really odd flow, because you have that IV increase when that whale came in, and we had some bigger flow here too. So that IV increasing, coming in here, that spot coming up, IV still up, IV increasing a little bit there. So that looked good to me, and it's very odd because when we went back to that 330 whale, that 330 whale looks like they gave up that 70% of gains and dropped down. So these two Tesla whales are really, really odd to me with earnings coming up. Something to definitely watch. As of right now, this would be a loss though, because this whale is down 303 and contracts are sitting about 90, so they are down a good amount there if they are bullish on those. We have a couple more to go and we are done. So K-Web next. Again, nice flow that came in here. And I want to go back to Thursday though and show everybody. So really odd flow that kind of came in here. We had the big ask side candle followed by some no side ask, mid, and bid fill. Kind of threw me off. I did put a note out to everybody, watch this, just because we had that double candle. More than likely could have been a quick in and out. Don't know, obviously, until the next day when we see how much of that carries over, and obviously that volume, majority of it, carries over. Looking at the flow. Looking at the flow here, obviously. Small little decrease in IV there, but we're sitting at the ask. Sitting at the ask. That IV drops a little bit more, and this is probably with that second candle coming in, kind of that mid side knocking it down a little bit, and then we have that jump in IV again as well there, and a jump in the spot price. Keeping that in mind, that's what stuck out there. These being filled at 176 and hitting a high of 210 today. Almost 20% on those, 19.32%. Good return if you would have traded that, even if you would have cut it intraday. Maybe about 10% or so on that. Not bad. And we also had the IWM play from yesterday, and kind of looking at this, we had some bid side fill come in on the 10th, and looking at that, to me this looks like a see, what was it? It's a little tougher because you got bid and ask side coming in here, but bumping this out, to me it looks like this was your whale entry, the initial one at 183, and they closed these at 535, and then reopened more here. And then you can always come down here, I mean, call debit spreads, and kind of gives you some strategy identifiers, which you can always come in and look at the profit loss here in the profit loss calculator. Let's pull that up and take a peek. Can still see it was a bullish trade, and kind of, this was CPI day, so kind of knowing long term, and this, we're kind of having a background of the overall market in your mind too. You kind of knew they weren't short on these just with CPI coming in cooler, chance of Fed rate cuts. That is where kind of having that background helps as well. And gotta look at the trade. So 2 days, here's your entry yesterday, and looking at the flow from yesterday. 2025, small drop, then 2027. Again, spot price increases there. IV increases, and these hit a high of 350 today, running from 162 to 350. That's 116% on those IWM calls. So good trade there. And last but not least, we had one come in today, Rivian. And looking at this Rivian flow, looking at the Rivian flow here, obviously jump in IV when that whale came in, jump in the spot price, 91.22, 91.22, ask side there. Kind of see that bid coming up there after that whale came in, but good little trade there. And these hitting, so from 50, these hit a high of 69 today, 38% on the intraday move on Rivian. So those were our trades, and I do want to show everybody one more thing for those that, oops, are in disguise, Stoner Man. I do also like to chart everything out. I'm kind of going to keep it quick. I just want to kind of pop up the charts here for, and if they don't make a 10-15% intraday move, I usually like to chart them out. Next week I'll kind of just keep the charts separate and go over them there as well. 7-8, where are we? 7-8, okay. So the Apple one, obviously we were looking at that chart, we were above, kind of overextending there. A little weaker volume on the weekly, RSI getting overbought there. SOXL looked like we were testing the top of this channel, and we ended up breaking through, obviously following that uptrend. Snap, nice little bull flag here on the weekly chart. So we broke through on that, and for those kind of interested in possibly joining, I do like to leave notes here as well too. So if you don't want to take the flow right away, you can always wait for a discounted entry, especially on those longer term trades. And I do kind of keep notes here, so intraday, I mean, enough time, I mean, to get out. And I'll always update it in the morning just if that volume carries over. Hood obviously kind of looked like a cup and handle breaking out, and then had a little flag there. SBUX, this was a really easy one to chart out. Going back to that weekly demand zone and bouncing out of it today. Coming down here. Chart, obviously JD hitting that bottom there, bouncing up. Was kind of looking for a rejection at that 50-day possibly. Tesla sitting above that long-term weekly or daily downtrend all the way back to 2021. Good volume there on that breakup, and obviously yesterday news came out about the robo-taxi thing. That's the big red candle there. K-Web, another good one, bouncing off that weekly uptrend, good volume there. And yeah, that's about it. So hope everybody had good week, made some money, and we'll be back next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.